Hi, this is Mr. Y. This is another game from round 3 of the Britton Acres Wednesday Chess Championship 2014. This game was between Nicholas Sui, who I call Sui, and Max. Sui had the white pieces. He played d4. Max played e5. I'm sorry, I said d. I meant that's in fact what was played. d4. Then d5, and then we have e4, which is known as the Blackmar Gambit. I was thinking of the Danish Gambit. D takes e is the normal response, and then normally what's played here is knight c3, which is going to win that pawn. That pawn can't really be defended. I guess it can. You're going to lose it eventually once you get enough material on it. So what black usually does is this, and then white offers another pawn for an exchange. That's normally what happens in the Blackmar Gambit. Now white has a central pawn and two knights developed in exchange for this f pawn, which is pretty dangerous. But that wasn't what was played here in the game. Instead, we have he offered the pawn, and then Max offered a pawn of his own. Which is interesting because now when Sui takes back, which he does, we've got these two queens looking at one another. So Max should have taken Sui's queen, forcing Sui to lose his ability to castle. I'm really liking black at this point because, well, just look at this. There's no f-pawn. There's no way to castle. He's going to have to castle by hand, if at all. It's going to, his king is just in peril, and black has a fairly strong central pawn here. You do something like, well, I guess you just give up that pawn. That pawn's going away. Yeah, I don't think it's worth defending. Maybe do something like this. Knight f6 defends the pawn, but I think it's going to go away anyway. Still like black. Yeah, I like black because now this pawn is gone. Anyway, but that didn't happen. Instead, Max took this pawn, allowing Sui to finish his gambit. Now he's got the. By the way, Sui should also taken back right here. Yes, and doing the same thing. But this tension remained open for a long time in this game. Neither player taking the other's queen, forcing them to lose the ability to castle until much later in the game. Knight c6 was played, challenging for these two squares in the center. Knight c3, e5, knight b5. Now Sui immediately goes on the attack. He's threatening this square here, which would be a fork on the king and the rook. The only trouble with it is that the square is currently protected by a queen, so we need to get another attacker on that in order to make that threat come to fruition. b5 was played. Whereas that can't be the move. b6 was played. There we go. Knight takes e5. Now this move was brilliant. I really like this because it looks like it's just giving up a knight for a pawn. But I'm hoping that Sui actually saw what was coming. He played the right move after that. The bishop is now attacking this square through the knight, which it looks like a threat pin to me. Now if the knight moves away, now we have that fork that I was talking about, and black's in trouble. So the knight can't move away, so you'll do something else. Actually, what Max did is pretty reasonable. a6, counterattacking against this knight. And now you have bishop takes the knight, and white's doing pretty well. That's check. So maybe bishop d7, and then c4, supporting the bishop. So now if the bishops are exchanged, potentially then you have a pretty strong situation here. And again, these queens have been facing one another for a long time. Let's go back to, let's see where we're in the game. So instead of taking the knight, which really would have been nifty, he instead defends the bishop that's not being attacked. All right, queen takes d1. Finally, Max takes the queen, but it's late enough that Sui could take back with the rook and be on the open file, but Sui didn't do that. Sui took with his king, removing his ability to castle and trapping in the rook. So that was the wrong move. Take with the rook. All right. So now we have a takes b5, so he takes the knight. Bishop g2. So Max, or Sui rather, attacks the Max's rook. And Max goes to a7. Better would have been to defend this pawn that's being attacked. But okay, so we went here. This is actually really bad because it allows, well, it took Sui a couple moves to find it, but this, now you've got to take the pawn and gain a tempo on the rook at the same time. So what did Sui play? He played rook e1, developing. Actually, this is a good move. I have no qualms with this move because it pins the knight. It's being attacked twice. Max defends the knight. Sui takes it, and then we take back, and then Sui wins the pawn with check. And then what does Max do? He does knight e7. At this point, you're not going to be able to castle anyway. I would move the king, frankly. There's no okay. There's two reasons why you don't care about castling anymore. First off, the queens are off the board, which sort of puts the lie to what I was saying about the queen exchange earlier, but that's not here. And secondly, you lost your f pawn, so the castle is going to be compromised to begin with. All right, so we have instead we have pinning your own knight. Even that, there's something better. I like this, which counterattacks against the rook and forces white to make a decision about what he's going to do here. Probably he'll just go ahead and exchange off the rooks, or he can do that at this point, or that. But not rather than pinning your knight at the first gasp. You're ahead in material here, Max. That's sort of the what we may have gotten lost in all this. Is that Black is up 2 pieces already, and I'm not exactly sure how that happened. So we have rook takes the pawn, knight leaps in for a pin, c takes b. Oops, c takes b. Okay, now he gets in this move that gains a tempo on the rook. Rook a6. All right, doesn't really do much good. It's okay. All right. Okay, so we do rook a6. Let's take a look at rook d7 check. And then we have king e2 perhaps, and then bishop b7. Why am I looking at this? Okay, well, whatever. Bishop takes, and then rook takes, and now you've got your rook in front of the pawn. That's sort of the goal here, is to stop that pawn from promoting. All right, so instead you went here, attacking the pawn from the side. It's really hard to attack pawns from the side with a rook. Bishop c6 check. That's all right. Bishop d7. Again, I would have moved the king, but okay, you move bishop d7. Then we have b7. That's not right. Yeah, b7. He was trying to promote the pawn. Now, let's go back a couple moves here. Rather than playing check here, you know, this check move it's what does it accomplish? I don't know. I don't know what it accomplishes. What's interesting here is the knight can't recapture because it's pinned. So, okay, so bring the bishop there it doesn't do much actually. It looks like it does, but because it's a check. But better would have been to try to get your rook behind your pawn. How do you get your rook behind your pawn? You capture the other guy's pawn. Now you've got a rook behind the pawn. This pawn can, all these squares that are in front of the rook are protected. So if he captures your pawn here, then you take the rook, right? If a move later he captures your pawn with the bishop, then you take the bishop, right? So the thing about having a rook behind the pawn is that, behind a passed pawn, is that he can't stop it by taking it without losing a piece. So that's there's a general rule of thumb: always get rooks behind your passed pawns. So instead, you went for the check, which looks pretty, but doesn't really do anything. You could have pushed that pawn there anyway, and now you don't have the rook behind it, so you don't have control of this square. So you're going to have trouble queening. Rook b6. So now Max gets his rook behind the pawn, which is the right thing to do. We have c4, threatening to threaten the rook. Bishop takes c6, so Max diffuses the attack here. Rook c1. I'm not sure why rook c1. I suppose it's protecting that pawn against this pawn. And then Max takes your pawn. Oop, that's not what he does. He does bishop takes b7. Okay, king c2. Again, don't see the point of this move. That simply undefends your pawn. Max takes it. Rook c5. Rook c5. Getting behind this pawn. Now at this point, Max, you need to be thinking about, okay, how do I exchange off the last two rooks and then mate him? We've got enough pieces. Maybe you'll need to promote a pawn, but you need to be looking at the end game and not trying to pick off material like you proceeded to do. So what happened here? Knight c8 was what Black played. All right, so that looks like it's defending the rook, but there's actually something else up his sleeve here, which is the revealed attack of the bishop on the rook. Sui doesn't see it. He pushes this pawn instead, and Max gleefully grabs the rook, which is good. I have no qualms about that. This is, winning a rook rather than exchanging rooks is always good. All right, a5, rook b5, again getting next to the pawn, and then we have rook e1 check, and then knight e7, again pinning the knight to the king. That's better. At this point, you really don't need to have your king against the wall. There are no threats. Get your king out into the middle of the board and let it be a fighter. Yeah. At this point, you don't want to be pinning pieces. You want to be using them to attack the other guy's king. So knight e7, king c3, rook takes a5, grabbing pawns. All right. Yeah, rook takes a5. King takes c4. Bishop d6. Bishop d6. Well, the bishop is safe where it is. I suppose maybe you want to attack these pawns. How about getting this rook activated? I don't know. Let's start going after the king. All right, so instead we went to bishop d6. Sui pushed this pawn, h4. I guess he doesn't have many legal moves left. And Max took that. Again, you don't need pawns. In fact, you want to leave pawns. You'll see why later. You want pawns on the board, at least one or two. King b4. Where's b4? Okay, so you're going after the rook. Not a good move. There's a tactic here. I'll give you a moment to find it. If you don't find it, pause your video until you find it. What's Black's best move here? All right, I'm back. What did you find? Did you find this? That protects the rook and wins the other rook. Now the game should be over, essentially. I mean, what's White going to do? Something like that. So, and I think it's just a matter of, you could probably do this and then start going in for the rook roller with this little material. You've got a real attack here. All right, but that wasn't played. What did Max play instead? He played rook a6. Okay, always be looking at attacking the king. Check all checks. This check is a really good check. So check all checks, every move. Rook a6. Rook g1, attacking the bishop, I suppose. Again, you don't need to defend the bishop. You're up so much material. You go after the king. What's the move? Rook b6 check is probably the best move. Now he can't take your bishop because he has to protect the king. King c5, say, and then you can fork the king. Then maybe goes the other way, and then you take the pawn. Or yeah, I don't know. Okay, so what happens here? You took this pawn. He takes your pawn, attacking your knight. I suppose. Bishop f6, attacking the rook. Rook g1. Rook b6 check. Okay, we got a check. That's probably okay. Where's b6? Oh, rook b6 check. Okay, that's what we were talking about before. King a5. Rook takes b2. Now he's got to start being careful because all his pawns are gone. Rook a1. All right. Now at this point, you should be looking at mating threats. Okay. Why do I say that? Well, his king is pinned to the wall, and you've got all these squares covered. You've got this square covered as well. All you need to do is get these two. See a way to get those two? You pause your video and see if you can find a mate in 2. All right, I'm back. What did you find? Did you find this? It's kind of an interesting move. Doesn't look like it's threatening anything, except what it's doing is it's threatening this. Okay, which would be checkmate. Okay. So, all right, and there's no way to stop it. No way to stop it. I was looking at actually this move here. Let's see here. You can bring the rook over here. I was looking at that, which is kind of elegant. The only trouble is that it just delays things for a while, right? You know. Okay, now we have mate in 2. All right. Yeah, so it's not quite so elegant as it first appeared, but that's the move. But that wasn't what was played. Instead, you had this idea of winning the rook. Moved your rook over here, revealing an attack on it that Sui didn't see. Sui, you gotta be looking always at these revealed attacks. You missed a number of them in this game. King b6. King gets loose. Whoops. Where's b6? There we go. He's going after the bishop. Bishop takes. King takes. Rook d6. King c7. Coming after your rook. Rook f6. Moves the rook away. King b7. Finally, we get the king going to that square. Should have happened long ago. King c7. All right, now Max goes in for another check, and Sui jumps into a very good square. Why do I say it's a good square? It looks like he doesn't have the ability to move in any direction. Right? Rook, 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 rook. Rook, rook, king, king. Okay? That's exactly why it's a good square, because you can't move in any direction. Max's next move was to a8, and that is stalemate, my friend. So that's a draw. It feels like a loss when you draw with 2 rooks, a knight and a bishop and a pawn against a lone king. But that's the trouble with playing against a lone king. is that if you get the lone king sufficiently hemmed in, then it's stalemate. Always leave some additional pieces on the board. Just makes things easier, less risky. All right, yeah, so you need to be going after the king earlier rather than going after all the other pieces. That's the lesson here. Interesting events in the beginning. Here, both of you should have taken your queen. Take the queen, 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 take the queen. Finally, you took the queen. It's too late. Okay, that's too late right there, because the rook can take back. And then when you can take back with a rook on an open file, put your rook on the open file. Don't take with the king. You can still potentially castle kingside, but why would you want to? Yeah, so this is not the time to take with the king. All right. So okay, so we move on. Let's see here. I really like this play back here, which I skipped over because I was talking about take the queen, take the queen. This move right there, that was brilliant. Love that. Oh man, that is so good. I wish he had taken the knight rather than making this pawn move. I don't know what that was about. Pawn, yeah, take the knight. Oh well. All right, what else we have? Okay, now I'll just... Sui losing material at max is really what the game was about. Didn't push the pawn successfully. You always get your rooks behind your pawns. That's a good lesson here. Rooks behind past pawns. Same color and opposite color, by the way. Your rooks and the other guys. Don't go in. Don't always block checks. Running is sometimes better. Capture is usually the best. Blocking is really only good if you want to protect your right to castle, and then you do it. Instead you did other stuff rather than castling your king and unpinning your knight. All right, and then the lesson for Sui is to be aware of revealed attacks. You had a lot of those. Check all checks. Right, this is the check here is the right move. Lots of lessons in this game. All right. I'm going to call that the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Better luck next time, both of you. Hope you play a cleaner game of chess next round. You're still in it with 2 wins, 2 out of 3. Go play some chess. See you Wednesday. Bye-bye.